In fact, so far as importing or people that export to the U.S., they legally they're only supposed to use compounds that are registered in the U.S. on their crops. And again, if it's registered for the crop, it has gone through all that testing and retesting and should be safe for consumption as long as the label and the post-harvest interval is followed and things like that.
Jonathan, aside from Merritt Island, are there any other areas in the world where this thing is present in commercial orchards? South Africa or
not that I'm
Israel?
aware of, no, not at all. And in Taiwan, they do have avocados there, and they have a small avocado industry. And I don't know about Jorge, but
I have not been to that area. In the same area where I collected, there was one avocado tree with some dead branches. We collected. There was one beetle collected from there, but I really would like to verify that really the damage there was not extensive. So,
and I was
questions marks.
Yeah, and when I was in Taiwan visiting the tropical fruit groves there, saw no evidence of decline or attack on the avocados. The researcher I was hosting with, who's a friend of mine who went to school at UF, never brought it up. There was no mention of it, nothing like that. So, a little bit of a...
You're aware that in an awful lot of our producing areas, the Laurel, Wilt, Laurel Bay trees are in the native hillsides all over the place. It'd be very difficult to control. And once it, if in fact it hits like it does the red bay.
That's exactly the scenario we're concerned about, is that if this, your California bay is fully susceptible and it might go up and down, that's way up in Oregon and all the way down to San Diego County, so that might move up and down the coast in that manner.
Anytime you see a truck from Florida and they're at Morro Bay State Beach, go check them out to make sure they don't have firewood, because it'll just jump right into the Bay Laurel.
Well, in fact, Ben brings up something. The Florida Department of Ag recently, it's been over a year now, but this issue of the firewood movement, this long distance transport, they knew that this was a hot issue, a big problem. They've now passed a regulation restricting and regulating the movement of wood and wood products, not just firewood, in and out of the state and also even from county to county. But from what DPI has told me, Wayne Dixon is one of the administrators there, that they are actually working with other states to try to put together a national regulation on the movement of wood products because it is such a big problem with moving these things. And I understand California, you've got really a pretty good interdiction program, your borders and things like that. And Randy mentioned earlier, you really want to work with your Department of Ag and Forestry and others to really take a look at what you're doing and how you might do it better to really try to prevent this from moving into your state. As Randy mentioned, even some people were using the material in barbecue for barbecue smoke. And, I've seen barbecue places where they advertise, they have different types of smoke. You really don't want to see one that says they've got red bay smoke, for the barbecue. I mean, it's just not a good idea. So you really want to work with your regulatory agencies to see what's going on.
Wood products move a lot of things besides red bay. I mean, there's a lot of beetles that can be moved around just in wood.
I just want to add that the distribution of the California bay laurel, the handouts that you have in the back of it, there's a map that shows the distribution of the California bay laurel all over the California.
Well, I was just going to comment, following up on the firewoods, in San Diego County, there's a beetle that will spotted oak borer that's killing oak trees, and we're finding the same thing, that movement of firewood that's infesting these beetles. We're potentially spread that beetle throughout the state. So I think regulatory agencies really need to think about regulating the movement of all firewood.
There was a meeting recently in Denver, and it was a meeting that's been held elsewhere. It's called the Continental Dialogue on specifically this type of thing. How do these problems, non-endemic problems, move rapidly? I mean, this firewood issue is on everybody's radar screen. And what's surprising to me is how a state, even within county areas, you can have dramatically different rules. In the Midwest, they've got a new problem called the Emerald Ash Borer. And in the Midwest, you go from one state to another, and there are just totally different laws, involving the movement of firewood. And so, again, we've got good rules here in California observing that.
And as I mentioned before, just realizing that the electrical company was moving wood, and we hadn't thought of it at first, and then some of the farmers had said, I saw an electric company that had been shipping wood up in the urban area down by us looking for a place to drop off their load. And that's when light goes on, you go, oh my God, here it is. They're up pruning trees up where the beetle is already, and then coming down to the agricultural area. So you want to think about not just, you want to think about some of the companies that deal with wood, landscape. I've been giving talks to landscape organizations, to arborists, and talking about all these issues about moving wood and disposal of wood. Because there's all these groups that you don't think of that could move wood, and it's surprising.
I know I've seen similar symptoms to that streaking in the bark. I was wondering what other diseases have symptoms.
On avocado,
Avocado, yeah.
verticillium wilt would do the same thing. Yeah, so you guys have got a verticillium wilt here. So, again, diagnosis, making sure that you've got all the symptoms we've mentioned, but then you've taken that wood and had a diagnostician look at that and said, it's not verticillium.
Yeah.
It's round. Yeah, you've already got verticillium here and it kind of looks like it, so.
Another cause is the avocado branch canker. So that's caused by the bacteria of the botrytis fungi. It used to be known as a bacterial canker pathogens. That can show similar kinds of symptoms.
But it's not systemic wilting. Now, you need to distinguish that. You need to distinguish that. So if you're seeing streaks go all the way up and down a tree, these bot pathogens will not cause that. So be distinct.
And growers from Santa Barbara County can call Brian and I. We work with the agricultural commissioner. We do test insect and disease diagnostics, no charge for county residents.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if you're interested, there's a good semi-selected medium for this pathogen. It's got some goodies in it that restricts most of the other fungi. So I can give you the recipe for that. And once you get to that step, oh geez, it's growing on this medium and it kind of looks like it, then there's some other steps you need to take as well.
Right.
Let me know if you need help.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got a last question. When we prune avocados and they're just 6 feet tall in high-density planting, the trunk never gets bigger than about 4 inches. The beetle is attracted to something that it can make a brood in. Is that a cultural practice that we should follow, high-density planting to reduce the incidence?
What, to have the smaller diameter?
Yeah.
It's not clear what's going on there. And artificially, when you inoculate those trees, I think it's probably the density of large vessels that are able to, be a good conduit for the pathogen. I don't know whether you're going to be able to manage the disease by restricting the size of the branches you trim.
Well, let me just tell you from our rearing of the beetle in the lab, even with a 2-inch diameter branch, we're able to rear the beetle.
Into 6 inches.
Remember though, over time, that trunk is going to, even though you're removing lateral branches, you may be able to control their size, but that trunk will, over time, expand.
But if you've got a canopy surrounding that trunk, does that provide any kind of shelter against the infestation?
Not that we've seen.
So should we jump to the twofer about Asian citrus psyllid and greening? I had a great dinner last night at the Taj restaurant with these guys, and they were telling really good stories about how